Welcome to the Inside the Sales Playbook show, where on each and every episode, we dive into the actual sales processes, the plays, the strategies working for sales teams today. No high-level overview. We get into the weeds of what some of the fastest growing and most successful teams are doing today to drive revenue and grow their businesses. And on today's show, we've got not one, but two sponsors today. Our first is sponsored by SalesKit. SalesKit helps take the guesswork out of scaling your sales knowledge all on one great platform. No longer do you have to search through Google Drives, Dropbox folders, and have all this sales clutter taking up time on your sales reps. SalesKit makes it easier than ever for your team to access the sales knowledge that actually works, and you can sign up for a free trial at getsaleskit.com. And we're sponsored by my book, Raise Your Standards, the definitive guide to building seven-figure sales. You can get a free copy of this book to help grow your sales, whether you're an entrepreneur, a sales leader, or a sales contributor at getsaleskit.com/book. I'm your host, Mark Evans, and today I'm so excited for our conversation today. We've got a great guest on, Miss Mackey McNeil. She's a founder, she's an author, she goes by a lot of titles, but most of all, I think what best describes her is that she's a transformational change agent for small businesses. And I know now more than ever do we need change agents like that. So Mackey, I'm so excited. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share some information about small business and selling.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Mackey, how about you give the listeners and the viewers a little bit of context? What is Mackey, and how do you help your clients achieve their mission?
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you for asking, Mark. Mackey is I would say we're a recovering CPA firm. In other words, that's where our roots are as CPAs and accountants. But what I learned, and the reason I started my own firm, is I believe that small businesses needed real advice and help. But the question was how to deliver that, not just to give them numbers, but how to make those numbers really come alive. So our process is called Prosper for Business. And it's really a combination of strategic planning, coaching, and accounting. So you get the right kind of information, and it's, we work with you and your team to really drive engagement around the numbers so that we're driving the right kind of results change in your business. And what we see is people tend to 3x their income based on their investment with us. So we have some great success stories, and we just love working with entrepreneurs to help them really generate the return that they deserve in their businesses.
Yeah, I believe it. And I really like your slant. And this was one of the reasons why I was really excited to talk to you today, right? There's no shortage of CPAs out there, and CPA firms and accounting firms. And I think often, especially myself as a small business owner, it's very easy to just lump them in a CPA category. They're all the same. There's no difference. Numbers are numbers, like taxes are taxes. But I really love the approach and how you have shifted not only the conversation, but how the whole brand perspective with your company. Could you walk us through kind of where were you at before? How did you get to this transformation where you're looked at as just more than a CPA? Because I think a lot of small businesses, they may be competing in other tough industries or competitive markets. I think they could learn a lot from just how you're uniquely positioned.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Well, we started out as a CPA firm. So I think the biggest challenge that you ever had is changing someone's mindset. There's probably the biggest challenge to anything, including sales. But in our local community, people saw us in a certain way. So that became our biggest challenge when we said, no, we're really more than that. So what we generally started doing is inviting people to come learn from us. So we started by just offering kind of a different way of thinking. So we had classes called the 4 Ways to Grow Your Business, and we had classes called Take Back Your Time. And so we would do things that really were stretch their perspective on what does a CPA do? And as they began to see us more holistically, they began to really get what we were doing. So I think it was about just really starting. And, I'm a big fan. I coach a lot of small businesses myself. If you don't have clients, you just give it away. So in the beginning, when we didn't have, we had this vision of what our new business model was going to be. We're going to walk away from being traditional CPAs. We're going to walk into this strategic coaching, strategic planning, accounting kind of combo place. We just started giving it away to people that would show up. And they would tell their friends because they would get great advice. And so that, I always say, if you don't have work, give it away, and so the work will come. If it's
I
good.
like that. Take us back to being on the edge of that precipice, right? Because I know that if you're an entrepreneur, we've been there where, hey, we're cutting away with the old. We're going to start this new chapter, whether it's just getting into entrepreneurship, starting a new venture, or pivoting your current company. Take us back to kind of that pivotal time in your firm's operation. What was going through your mind, and what were maybe some of the things that you did to say, no, this is the path that we're going to go on? Because I'm sure that wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy because I had one of the largest CPA firms in Cincinnati, and we were on the top 25 list. And, like many times when people are making major change, they've had something. So I had a death from in the family, from a family member who's very close to me. And there's nothing like tragedy to, I woke up from that after a few years of grieving, and I said, life is short. And this wasn't what I wanted to do. When my dream was to really be a transformational CPA, to help people fundamentally change their perspective about accounting and wisdom that comes from numbers and how to use that to make more money in their business. And what I was doing was sort of that on the side, but a lot of clients, because that's where I was paying the bills, right? So I started with commitment. That's always the first thing. This is what I'm going to do. This is what makes me happy. And I sold half my firm.
Wow.
Like overnight.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we freed up a lot of capacity.
A lot of time was freed up in that. Yeah, I could imagine.
And we used the money that we got from the sale to fund our R&D. And we were fortunate that we had people who loved us and loved our work. And we would say, can we try this with you and try that with you? So, I always say, people say, how do you do research and development? I said, well, if you're a small business, it's like trial and error.
Yes.
You try things out. If they work, you keep doing them. And if they don't, you stop.
Yeah. Well, walk us through it, because I think that's a really important thing as well. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, and maybe you've seen this as well, get caught in that procrastination versus perfection type of mantra, right? Or they always want to, I love your point on R&D, and right, I think a lot of entrepreneurs can get trapped in well, I'm just trying to perfect it before we're going to launch it. How did you overcome that? Because it sounds like you really took action, even if it was maybe imperfect action at that very moment.
Absolutely. I think that is true, that people, and I can get myself there too.
Me too.
Yeah. Fortunately, when you do the Myers-Briggs on the CPA spectrum, I'm on the opposite end. So I'm not a person, I just had this conversation with somebody this morning. I'm really not a detail freak. I know that, and when we use numbers with people, certainly we want the base to be correct data, but the most important thing is that we get the direction that the data is going so we can make better decisions.
Yeah.
And I got off track for your original question, Mark. I apologize.
No, that's okay. We were talking about how to help entrepreneurs, or what you did you use any process to go from to launching that maybe imperfect, the imperfect plan?
Well, one of the things that I'm a fan of is listening to your inner wisdom. So I think for me, and I have actually a process, I'm a process person too. So I have a process to help people listen to their own inner wisdom and then peel away. So I think there's a lot, letting go is the hardest thing, right? So I said I sold half my firm. It's a scary thing. I was a single mom at the time, everything depended on my income. So if it didn't work out, it was all up to me. But if I had the vision and I had the faith that this was going to work out, and I could see that what we were doing was transformational. And so when you ask me how do clients let us practice, I would actually tell them, look, I think this is something that would help you. Can we work? Can we practice with you? Can we play together? And, I feel like transparency and authenticity is just always, it's always the perfect answer, right? It's just say, this is what I'm going to want to do. And, and by the way, if you like it, will you tell your friends? Which is the sales part of me.
Yep. I love that. Well, so let's fast forward. So that was the beginning, right? Where you started, you made this big decision. Now you've got a very successful firm that's doing great things and delivering great results for your clients. Let's talk about what you're doing today to really generate business. I know you've got a great name and a great, reputation in the market, but let's talk about kind of what's in your sales playbook. How does your company start with generating even leads?
Right. Well, thank you for asking. I have 2 books out, and books are a great way to, as you know, Mark, from your own book, a great way to get people to understand your philosophy and get in their hands something that's fairly inexpensive that they can say, hey, do I agree with this person or don't I agree with this person? So my most current book is the Prosperity Playbook. And it's a guide for, it really works for any businesses, but it's primarily focused on family businesses, but the tools work anywhere. But family businesses, particularly focused on succession, because what we're seeing is there's this huge number of family businesses that are run by boomers, and the boomers have not prepared for what is the next generation. So really building the company up so that it can afford to pay the boomer, and the second generation can afford to make the money that they need to make from the business. So I think a book, if you're certainly in professional services, is really almost become like your calling card. So, and you can write your own. I'm a real fan of writing my own. Some people hire it written. I mean, there are a lot of ways to get it done. And then get it out there. Give it away to your family and friends. Give it away as a download. Sell it on Amazon. You know, it's so much easier. The first book I did was 17 years ago, and this one was so much easier. That one's the intersection of joy and money. And I have a wealth management firm as well. So we do financial planning and wealth management. And I built my entire client base from that. I had Zippo clients. So I built the philosophy, and then I talked about the book, and people loved the ideas I had, and they bought the book or didn't read it, but loved the ideas and work with us. You know?
I love that. That is so good. Yeah, I think starting with a book, especially in professional services firm, I totally agree with that. It makes everything so much easier. It's like that big domino that if they can agree with your philosophy in that book, even if they can just read a little bit of it, it seems like sales becomes a lot easier. Well, so I imagine you're giving away a lot of books. Then do you follow up with those leads? Do they go into like a webinar funnel or anything like that? Walk me through some of the strategies or the tactics that maybe you and your sales team are using to move people down the funnel.
Thank you for asking. We have, we use a database system to track everyone who downloads something, and we do follow up with them. We're still working. It's more of a general follow-up that go into our general newsletter, but we're working on a more strategy so that, say, if you download this particular tool, say our cash headroom tool, then you get these kinds of follow-ups. So it's a little more specific. And of course, they go into our webinar list. So if we're offering a webinar on something that they wanted to download, they can learn more. And so it's like most people, it's a nurturing that people identify with us and then they nurture. Like I had someone that called about a month ago and said, hey, I've been using this tool because we did a ton of early on with COVID, as you might imagine, we did cash flow workshops at least once a week.
Yeah.
Cash flow. So you mean the strategy at that point is, right, survive to thrive, right? You got to survive, because a lot of businesses are going to go out of business, and that takes cash. So people downloaded our tools and were using it. And so, somebody called me and said, can you help me? And I said, well, let's set up a 30-minute call. So I think this is a good company I'd like to work with. So I invested 30 minutes of time with them to say, hey, here's how you might use this tool better. And by the way, at the end, I have to ask you, would you like to do more work with us?
So you took the approach in that call as hey, this isn't a sales call, or it didn't sound like a traditional sales call. So you're giving value throughout that entire conversation. And then at the end, you didn't have to do the, hey, do you want 2 doors or 4 with that? Or any sort of slimy closing technique, it sounded like. Sounds like it moved into just a natural, hey, if you like that advice, would you like to work with us? Is that fair enough for me to say?
Exactly. I think the best thing is to add value from the moment you begin the conversation. I used to, and I've tried a lot of different approaches because I am not a salesman. And I think for professional services, that's the first challenge is the mindset, right? I want to go into business for myself, but I didn't want to sell anything because I had this kind of negative thing about salespeople. So I had to get over that. And, that was a big hurdle for me early on. But then I realized nobody could benefit from what I had. That was really my driver. Nobody could grow and nobody could do this. And nobody could, get these great ideas unless I was willing to work with them on it. But I would do it very much like consulting piece. Let me understand where you are. Let me understand where you're stuck. Here's some things you might consider, without giving away it's a 30-minute call. So it's giving away 30 minutes, not giving away a whole consult. But I find that, that's, for me, it's just been the best way to go about anything. When I tried the other approach of don't really give them anything. It just didn't feel right for me. So not that that's not the right thing for somebody else, just wasn't right for me. And the other two people in my office who sell, we all have that philosophy. If you call with a problem, we want to address your problem and see how much we can help you. And then if you're still stuck, maybe when you need some more, some deeper help.
Yeah, I really like that approach. And Mackey, I'm really impressed with your sales philosophy. You may not call it a sales philosophy, but from looking at it with outside eyes, it's really neat to see how the social credibility is stacked up with the books, right? So your like social status is raised because you're an author. And then that leads into potentially an intro call or a discovery call or an advice session call. And then you're just giving value. So you're stacking. And I think a lot of people could learn from this, right? You've got that social credibility built up. And then the next most important thing, because it just doesn't do it on its own, but adding value from call one. So many people, I think, fear that, well, if I give them just a little piece of advice, that's it. That's all they're wanting. There's no opportunity for future. And I think that's a scarcity mindset, to use your words. And that can just be the appetizer. How am I going to know if I'm going to want to work with you if you're not giving me anything, if I'm not getting any value from the beginning? I really like that, Mackey. I'm really impressed.
And I think that, Mark, what people don't realize is the person who's not going to pay, who doesn't want to engage and doesn't want to pay you, probably isn't your ideal client anyway. And again, at the end of the day, you've given away 30 minutes of your time. So it's a nice investment for something that, when I look at it, 30 minutes of my time, I'm willing to invest. Because even if people don't buy from me, what I know is their life is better. So get the added benefit of that.
I love that. And then, if they don't find value, or if they're not getting that call, then you get to kind of screen them as, is that someone I want to work with as well?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I really, really love that. That's great. Has your sales organization or your sales style or philosophy changed at all since COVID-19 has hit, now that we're a couple months into it?
Well, it's of course all virtual. And I think there's always a gift in everything, right? Every challenge has its gifts. And we've been moving to virtual platforms and working with clients across the country for years, but it's been slow because people sort of still see you as a provider in this area or that area, but not anymore. So, that's been a real gift for us. So a real plus has been we're no longer seen as the firm from Northern Kentucky or the firm from Cincinnati. We're now just a player, out there making a difference for businesses all throughout the U.S. So
I really love that. That's great. That's awesome. And more people need your services now than ever before, right? If you think about what kind of level of service you're providing, it's not widgets, it's not ball bearings, although those are important, but the type of advice and the services, from whether it's a succession plan for a business or helping people come through this kind of maybe cash flow crisis that they're in due to COVID, all very, very important. So awesome work there. Well, Mackey, I think that's a great point. Let's close with the final 5. So these are going to be 5 rapid fire questions that I'll ask, you answer. Sound good?
I'll give it my best shot.
I know you will. Give me your favorite sales or business related movie.
Oh, wow. What is it? The one where the guy was the thief. What was it?
Probably something with Wall Street.
No, it was Leonardo DiCaprio.
Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can.
Yes.
I don't know what it was about that movie, but it was phenomenal to see that somebody could play a part and be so many different people.
Yeah, I really like that. Besides your own, Mackey, do you have a favorite sales or business book?
Do I have a favorite sales or business book? I have a lot of business books. I
can see that's a fully stocked library.
Yeah, fully stocked library. Seth Godin is always very good. I love his work. I just am a big fan of trying out a lot of different things. Right now, I'm reading something called Joyful. I think sometimes the best sales ideas or the best ideas don't necessarily come from business. So for 2021, my vision is to be, my big word is, or 2 words, is purposefully joyful. So I want to look at everything as purposely joyful. So my reading is focused on anything that's joy. So I look at it as a business owner. What are you in business for if it's not fun and joyful, right? So there's just that. Not last year. It was more like the technical stuff. But of course, it was all about getting people through in cash flow and cash management and not. So this year, I'm sort of switching over and doing a little bit different. So give yourself some freedom there.
I love it. I really like that. What do you know now that you wish you would have known when you first got into business and into sales?
Oh, what I wish I know now is that, selling is really about meeting someone's needs and helping them. And and if you get out of your own way, I think that again, changing your mindset and saying, I need to think about this differently. I'm not imposing myself on someone. I am offering, and I even say that to clients. What my goal is for you to understand what you do, so you would choose it. If you choose it powerfully, that's a great first step.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our job, is to help you understand what you might buy from us.
I love it. I really like that. Mackey, what's a favorite purchase of yours in 2020 under $100? Can be business, can be personal.
My favorite purchase.
And we can now say over the past year.
For myself, I don't know that I've bought a lot for myself. Or I have bought more technology for their business, but it's almost more than $100. I would say if it was under $100, it was probably something for my 2 grandchildren.
Perfect. Again, bringing joy and that focus on purposeful joy. I like that. Mackey, is there anyone either on social media or blogs or email newsletters that you're on of people in business that you really like, that you follow, that you get a lot of great advice from?
I follow a lot of different people, and I like, sometimes I'm listening to news podcasts. Sometimes I'm listening to Strategic Coach. He has Dan Sullivan has some great stuff out there.
He's phenomenal.
When they do I am a fan of listening to futurist David Houle. I've had him come speak to my clients, and he has some great information out there. I like to look into the future I'd say if I had something I was doing that wasn't maybe totally business oriented, it would be to look in the future, because it's different, right? So got to be prepared.
I like that, Mackey. I really like that. Mackey, if our listeners would like to connect with you, where can they learn more about you? Where can they learn more about Mackey?
You can learn more about me on LinkedIn. You can find me there, Mackey McNeil. If you just Google my name, I'm the only one. So you can't miss me. My company address is mackeyadvisors.com, and we'd love to hear. You can go on and download a lot of our free tools and connect with me there too.
That's great. Well, Mackey, thanks so much for being on the show. This was a really great conversation, and thank you for taking us inside your sales playbook.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. It's been delightful.
My pleasure.